That's right, I quit my six-figure job. So you may be thinking like, why in the world would you do that? That's what I'm going to answer, along with how I built up passive income streams to be able to do it and what I've learned since being fun employed. And spoiler alert, not all of it is good. All right, if you're new to the channel, here's some breakdown of my background. So I am a licensed CPA, that is a certified public accountant. I worked for a CPA firm as an audit associate, so I would go in and audit people's financial statements. And then I became a corporate controller. That's just like a fancy word for saying an accountant for a privately held company. And I was there for 7 years. That's right, 7 years of doing accounting for the same company. Sounds invigorating, right? It takes a special kind of nerd to be able to do accounting, and I guess I'm that person. I actually really enjoy accounting. All right, so I quit my job around 7 months ago, and I won't say the exact salary that I got, but you could Google it, just type in average salary of corporate controller, and I can tell you that I was above average. That's right, I tooted my own horn. All right, so let's break down why I chose to quit. One, it's just repetitive. So accounting can be really, really repetitive. You can only close so many books. And not that type of books. It just means doing the accounting every single month. So to be honest, I got a little bit bored with it. It's not that new things weren't coming my way. Like the company that I worked for had sold to private equity. It had changed leadership. There was new things going on all the time. And so those new things were exciting, but it was still just accounting and I was getting a little bit bored of it, to be honest. And I was feeling a little bit more tied down. Like my schedule wasn't actually my schedule. It was the company's schedule. And probably one of the biggest reasons as to why I quit my job was simply it was not mine, meaning I didn't create it. I am an accountant, and a lot of times accountants can be risk adverse, but I wanted something that would push me a little bit more, something that I could build at the end of the day and say, this is the company that I built. And I wanted freedom from the daily grind, being in somebody else's schedule and always having to answer to somebody else. And so that was a huge driver of it. I wanted to be a creator, both in content creation and in business in general. And this is nothing against my employer, especially my immediate boss. He is awesome and I loved working for him. I just wanted to be able to go and create something myself. All right, so how did I get comfortable quitting a six-figure salary and going and essentially being unemployed, right? I'm calling it self-employed, but unemployed. So I walked right into my boss's office. I slammed my laptop down and I said, I quit, and I just stormed out. Just kidding. I actually worked remote for this company, so I actually just called up my boss and explained to him my thoughts and my feelings, and he was super cool about it. And he said, hey, if there's anything I can do to help, if you ever decide to jump back into the accounting world, if you need references, like, please put me down. He is an absolute boss in every sense of the word. So how did I actually get comfortable? It really started with my personal finances. I have been frugal throughout my whole life. I've always lived well below my means, and I've actually taken a lot of money and invested it. So I was smart with my money. I went and invested in real estate, and I've been investing in real estate over the last 7 or 8 years. So I've bought multiple rental properties. I jumped in on a hotel with a business partner of mine, and I really just built up passive income streams that can pay a chunk of my expenses. Now, when you have a big chunk of your expenses being covered by something that you don't have to put in a ton of time on, it just makes it easier to take a little bit more risk. And with one of the rental properties, I actually ended up selling it after I quit, and it's kind of been like seed money. So I sold it. I had a pretty big built-in gain on that property. So I had a big gain. I got a huge chunk of cash inflow. And so I have seed money essentially built up to start new endeavors, one of which is being content creating. And another thing that allowed me to quit is I'm actually really good in the sheets. Spreadsheets, that is. So I actually nerded out in Excel. I did some financial analysis. I said, okay, hey, where's all of my current spending? How can I reduce that if necessary? Here's all of my income, and this is what I expect on income in the future, not only from my rental properties, things like that, selling the rental property, the hotel. I figured out my income, and I said, okay, how long can I live just off this? If I have no other income streams, how long can I live? And in my analysis, it pumped out to be over 3 years. So I could actually not work at all, try not to make any additional income, and live for 3 years. And that's actually not even with like a decrease in my living style. So I wouldn't even actually have to change much. And I could actually stretch that out further if I wanted to go to like ultra frugal mode and not spend any money. But probably the most important thing on how me personally, Greg Acton, was able to go and quit my 6-figure job was actually talking with my wife. So if you are thinking about quitting your job and you are married or you have a significant other, whatever it may be, consult with them. It is so much easier to do when you have somebody in your corner. So I actually asked my wife, I talked to her about my job and like, man, I'm just kind of getting sick of this. I want to change. I want to do something different. I want to build something. And she told me to quit, like hands down. She was like, you just need to quit. I was still nervous. I hadn't done all my analysis yet. I was still a little bit nervous. I actually had done some analysis, but I kept in my job and I waited a month, and then I talked to my wife about it again, and she would say, you need to quit. And this pattern kind of repeated itself at least 3 or 4 times. And so finally, after like 6 months of doing this with my wife, where I'd talk about it and she'd tell me to quit, and I'd talk about it and she'd tell me to quit, I finally bit the bullet and I left. So I want to give mad props to my wife because she has always supported my dreams, regardless of what they are. And even if they seem a little bit crazy, like quitting a 6-figure job to have no income outside of my passive income streams. All right, so let's bust out some of the lessons that I've learned and things that you need to consider if you are looking at quitting your job. So these lessons are actually going to include some positive things that have happened since quitting my job and some things that were hard or stressful or negative. I don't want to paint this like rosy picture that everything's great, because honestly, it's rough. Like sometimes it's dang hard, and sometimes having the motivation to do things and to build and create is tough to come by. So this is the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything in between. So first one is like as a positive. Once you have freedom to dictate your own schedule, it is so hard to go back. Like I quit my job and I can do things when I want to do them for the most part, right? There's times when I just have to do certain things, but like I can work around my schedule and I can do so much stuff. I can help coach my kids' basketball teams and baseball team. I can hunt when I want to. I can ride dirt bikes when I want to. I can shift and work whenever I want to, and it is so hard to think that I would ever go back. That would be so brutal. Going back to a 9-to-5 would be rough. And I guess kind of backtracking a little bit, that's another reason I was able to quit is I have plenty of opportunities. I have accounting firms that would hire me right now, and I don't say this to like brag. I'm just saying like I had a fail safe. If I go 3 years, which I did the financial analysis, and I can live 3 years without making more money, I can always just jump back into accounting. So if I ever got uncomfortable, there's accounting firms that would hire me right now. And I could always go back to my previous boss and he could float my resume out and I could find another job. So that part wasn't a scary part. Like quitting and then having nothing to go back to just wasn't an option. I have enough skills. I've built up my resume enough that I can always go back to it. So that was another reason I was able to quit. All right. Some stressful things. Entrepreneurship is stressful. There are just things that are tough, right? Like income might be not as consistent as you're used to. You're not going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks. If you are starting up a business, it may be months before you have really good cash flow that you can actually pay yourself. If you're in real estate like I am and you have to sell a property, like you might only sell a property once or twice a year if you are owning that real estate. And that might just be like a huge chunk of change, but then you are not having a consistent paycheck. And so sometimes that can be a little bit stressful. And with my current endeavors, like trying to build up YouTube, that is hard. So I actually built up YouTube and I got monetized. This was a couple of years ago, but then work got so busy that I actually got demonetized because I wasn't posting consistently enough and my watch hours have dropped down. And so now I'm trying to build that back up and to build and to gain traction and to do YouTube, especially as an accountant who I am not a professional videographer. I don't have fancy editing techniques, things like that, right? So it is tough to build up YouTube and it can be very stressful because you don't have the instant gratification that you would get from a job, right? Where you have like, hey, I know I'm working and then I get paid, right? Or like YouTube, I can be working and it is just in that growth phase and it is not paying me. So it can be rough. And along with that, when you are starting and growing your own thing, you have to be very self-motivated, and sometimes that can be tough. Sometimes it's amazing because you're just like, man, it's mine, I can go and do it. And sometimes that's great and I love it. Other times it can be like, man, it is just me. You feel alone. It's hard. It's stressful. You want to build it up, but it's not going as quickly as you'd want to. So keeping that motivation can be tough. And some of the other things that are a little bit hard is sometimes it just feels like you aren't being a contributing factor in like society, right? If you're self-employed and you're just kind of starting off and things are slow and they're small, then you'd be like, man, am I even making a positive impact? And you hope you are. And that's like my big goal, is to make a positive impact in people's lives every single day. If I can help somebody just be better with their financial future, that is a good thing. But sometimes it's hard to see that. Sometimes it is hard to feel like you're actually contributing when things are just moving a little bit slower. And sometimes people just react funny, right? Like I told people that I quit my job, like people in the town that I live in, and a lot of people are like, man, that is so awesome. That's cool that you were able to do that. That's awesome that you were able to find a way to live and not have the 9 to 5. And you have people just so in your corner and are just like, that is so cool. How can I help? Are there things that we can do? And that's awesome. And then you have like the weird reactions where they're like, you quit your job to make videos on YouTube. And I was like, you know what? Yes, I did. And sometimes they're like, huh. And so I'm pretty good at tuning that out, but that does happen, right? If you quit your job, you're going to have people that are going to look weird at you. They're going to be like, why? Huh? Well, you need to be working from 9 to 5. That's what everybody does, right? And I'm ready to honestly just like, it doesn't need to be that way. That's why I quit. I don't want to work 9 to 5. I want to be able to dictate my own schedule. And I know that there's times when I'm going to have to crank and I'm going to have to work, but that's why I want to do it on my own schedules, because I get to choose that. And the freedom like absolutely rules. It's awesome. I love it. I love that I can help my wife when I want to help my wife, and I don't have to be like at an office stuck doing something, right? I get to work when I want to work. Super cool. Now, I can't have fun forever. I can't just absolutely not work, because if I just have fun forever, I won't have funds forever. I eventually are going to run out of money. So I obviously need to do some things to be able to make money and fund a lifestyle that I enjoy living. So what is your biggest fear in quitting your job and going after your passion? Please hit me up in the comment section. All right, so here's a few tips that I would give when quitting your job, and this is just from my experience. Set clear expectations on what it will look like, especially with your spouse, right? And this is something that my wife and I, we've gone in ebbs and flows. So I quit my job, and I'll be honest, I was kind of burnt out, so I didn't work for a while. And my wife's expectation, and this is not her fault at all, her expectation was I'm going to quit my job and like deep dive into YouTube and try and build it and be working. If not the same amount of hours, I would be working more hours. And to be honest, I just was in a mental state that I needed a break. I was just like, I'm going to chill. I'm going to go do what I want to do. And I don't want to think about work, and I'm not going to work for a while, which is a fine mindset to have. And my wife's mindset was totally fine to have too. It's the expectations and the communication that was a little bit rough. And this was just on us. And we've been able to talk about it and work through all of that. But setting clear expectations with your loved ones on what it will look like. And if you are a single person, just setting those expectations for yourself, knowing for yourself, like, what is my schedule going to look like? How is my life going to change? And how do I want it to look like, right? And build out those expectations before quitting so that you have a plan going forward. Also have goals with timelines and what success looks like. So make a goal, have it be a SMART goal that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. That way you know exactly what success looks like, and it's going to give you motivation to go out and hit those deadlines. And if you're going to quit to go do a dream job, make sure it is something that you're passionate about. Do not quit just because you dislike your job or want to change. If you don't have a passion, you need to figure out what that passion is and go and chase that. Ensure that you are financially secure. So for me, I did a bunch of analysis and I figured out I had 3 years worth of living expenses all saved up and ready to go. I'm not saying that that's what you need, but you at least need to make sure that you and your family are taken care of. I would not suggest putting yourself into a risky situation just because you don't like your job and you want to quit. Obviously, find a way to make it work for you, to make money off of it, to make money on your passion, and go and make sure that you're financially secure. That is why I was able to do it, and I would suggest that for everyone. And if you're like me, having a backup plan was vital. I loved having a backup plan. Knowing I can always jump back into the accounting world gave me a lot of confidence in my ability to quit my job. And so having a backup plan is a good thing. Now, I've heard the quote, burn the boat, like saying, jump all in, say there's no way I'm going back. And it can be a huge motivator for you. And I do think that's good. And I think if you can have that mindset, go and foster that. But knowing that, if push comes to shove, you can go and get a job. It is a good thing to know that that's just like a fail safe. But, go all in. I have full confidence that if you put your mind to it and you are truly going after your passion, you can find ways to succeed both financially, emotionally, all of it, right? You can do it. And looking back, after 7 months of quitting my job and essentially having like very limited income, I have my passive income streams, but my income isn't as consistent as it was. Thinking about that, do I regret quitting my job at all? And I can honestly say, like right now, I do not. I do not regret it. Sometimes I question it. Sometimes I go, man, should I have stayed? Would having the extra money be nice? But like when I really dig down and actually think about it for myself, I don't regret it. It's been a great decision, and it's something that I am grateful for. And it's allowed me to do a lot of cool things, a lot of things with my family, given me more freedom. So it has been a great decision for me. Now, as always, if you have any questions for me, please hit me up in the comment section. We'll catch you guys next time.